Studio, and also joining us now in the studio from the Mississippi Highway Patrol, Colonel Randy Ginn. He's the director of MHP and the assistant commissioner of the Department of Public Safety, and also our good friend Major Johnny Polis, communications director from, is that right, Johnny?
Public Affairs Director for the Mississippi Highway Patrol.
Okay, got the right title there. Appreciate that. So good afternoon, gentlemen. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
You bet. Thank you. So we wanted to get you on today to talk about a brand new initiative that we saw a press release about, known as the D.R.I.V.E. D.R.I.V.E. campaign, an acronym, of course. Tell us about this, if you would, Colonel. This specifically relates to teen driving fatalities in the state of Mississippi.
Yes, sir, it does. We began to look at the numbers for teen fatalities at the end of 2020. And we saw a dramatic rise from the numbers of 2019. Thus far, we collected a number of 70 teen fatalities in 2020 compared to 49 in 2019. So that alarmed us, as I'm sure it does all Mississippians when they see that. So working with the Public Affairs Division, came up with the D.R.I.V.E. campaign, which is Driving Requires Initiative, Values, and Education. And we're going to do some things that are going to try to help curb that number. We're going to work through the public affairs officers. We're going to be doing some campaigns with schools and churches and other civic organizations to try to raise the awareness. And then the Enforcement Division will also be conducting some campaigns to try to curb these numbers and to reduce that. We generally rank, sadly to say, in the top 5 of the country almost every year for teen fatalities, and we want to get off that list.
I got to tell you, and the Major shared that with me before we went on the air, that statistic, sobering statistic, I'm a little shocked. Is there anything, Major, unique about the state of Mississippi, our driving environment, the number of teen drivers and the like?
And you know, Gerard, that is the thing. We hear that all the time when we bring this subject out about teen driving fatalities across Mississippi. We get parents' attention pretty quick, and we should. When it comes to traffic safety, I think people become desensitized because we're always talking about it. We're always talking about the crashes. But when you bring up teens dying in car crashes, that's something that it's not political. It's something that we have to look at, and they're our future. So as Colonel Ginn said, this is a pretty easy one for us to go out and spread the message and get into the schools. We work with the Mississippi Department of Education.
Yeah.
They're gracious to help us when it comes to getting in the schools. Now, COVID has presented us a problem. But we're working on maybe virtual presentations, and as the numbers go down, we're going to be in these schools. We've got to let these teenagers know the dangers of driving, the responsibilities they have, and working with the parents. The parents have a responsibility as well.
Yeah, they do, and I guess, are we still, showing my age here, Major, but are we still requiring students to undergo the standard driver's ed type training and things like that? I remember being pretty scared seeing those videos when I took that,
right,
of the consequences of crashes from just really not driving responsibly.
Right. And talking with Colonel Ginn and Commissioner Tindall about the driver's ed classes across the state, unfortunately, not every school has driver's ed.
Okay.
So that presents us a problem with the educational part of that, but they do have health classes. So if they do not have a driver's ed class that the students can take, they do have health classes, and we're going to be in those classes as well. You know, the driver's ed instructors, they have a tough job.
Yeah.
I mean, they really do. If you think about having the responsibilities of actually having to teach our youth how to drive, they're very limited in the amount of time they have. So we're gonna provide the resources that we have and try to do the best we can with educating our youth across the state.
Well, it's concerning for sure, and I guess I don't like to see the state, being kind of near the top of that list. Is there some issue, perhaps, do you think? Are we maybe overboard or having outsized incidents of our teenagers on their mobile devices while they're driving? Is that a cause of the accident rate?
Well, we certainly believe that's a contributing circumstance. The education component of this is not just learning the rules of the road, so to speak, which is very important. and they should know the rules of the road. Anyone driving should. But what other factors are contributing to these accidents, whether it's not wearing seatbelts? 1 out of 2 Mississippians that die in a car crash typically are not wearing a seatbelt. That's a big concern.
I got to tell you, I'm shocked. I think you shared that with me before, Johnny. I'm shocked when I hear that. I just don't know anybody. Maybe I'm in kind of a little anecdotal, isolated area, but I don't know anybody. I know when people get in my vehicle, it's just automatic, and I get in other people's vehicle, it's automatic. I'm shocked to hear we still have that issue, and it sounds to me like it is a major contributing factor.
And that's why we have the Rollover Simulator in place. We actually have 2 now that we take statewide, and it actually shows you what happens in a rollover crash. And this is only a 40-mile-an-hour simulator crash. The majority of the crashes that we investigate, we're looking at least 70 miles an hour and above. But it will show you we have mannequins that we restrain in the simulator, and we start it into the roll. Well, of course, they're going to remain in the vehicle because they're restrained. Then we take the seat belts off, which unfortunately that's what we're seeing with our teenagers across the state.
Yeah.
We start the roll with the vehicle. They're actually ejected out of the vehicle. So it gives you an idea of what happens to the human body when you're not restrained and you're thrown from the vehicle.
And I got to believe if you're thrown from a vehicle, your chances of surviving are greatly reduced, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow. Plus we have all the airbags and all that other stuff, a lot of technology to help with that, but you still got to be responsible.
That's right.
No substitute for that. So this is how's this been received, I guess, by the public in general? I know it hadn't been a lot of time, but what do you think?
Well, once the colonel gave us the approval to go ahead and launch and send the news release out, we had the storm.
Yeah.
So that kind of put us behind a little bit.
Yeah.
But now we're getting some things in place. The PAOs are making contact with all the principals throughout the state, with the driver's ed instructors, trying to set the presentation so where we can bring the rollover. And we're also going to bring in guest speakers. You know, we've got a lot of victims advocates across Mississippi that unfortunately have either lost a child or lost a family member in a car crash. And we always give them credit. It takes a brave person to actually lose a loved one, but wants to go out and prevent someone from going through that.
Yeah.
So we have some of those guest speakers lined up. We just have to get out there, and we're in the process of making that happen.
And are we going to be able to get those folks, I hope, in particular, to those areas where they're not teaching driver's ed?
Absolutely. That's the areas that we're going to target first.
Good.
Because that's where we're seeing some of our crashes, the majority of our crashes in certain areas of the state.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's a contributing factor because they don't have driver's ed, but we're going to target those areas first.
Yeah. What about the road and the road conditions and so forth? Is that an issue we need to be concerned about to improve, I guess, the safety aspects of our roads? Something we can do there?
There's always things that could be done there as well. But I think the focus that we're going to have is going to be trying to instill new habits, break bad habits, whether it's not wearing your seatbelt, whether it's using your cell phone while you're driving or letting that distract you, driving under the influence, and other things that contribute that we can do as a highway patrol to do that. And certainly, if the roads need repair, I know MDOT it looks at those consistently. But we're looking to educate drivers, hopefully inspire some parents, and get everyone to sense the urgency that we see by these numbers, that something needs to happen to reduce those numbers.
What can we do as parents, as teachers, as coaches, as ministers, as adults in general to help influence and educate responsible driving habits amongst our teenagers?
I think first thing, Gerard, we have to set the example. We get so busy in our lives as parents and adults, and of course we know it's very easy to do that in today's society, but we have a responsibility as a parent or our grandparent. We'll have that certain amount of time with them.
Yeah.
And when they're leaving, we know they're going to be traveling in a car. If they're riding with a passenger, know who your child is riding with.
Yeah.
And everyone has to be restrained in that vehicle. Everyone.
So right. It looks like just a fantastic program, and we appreciate you guys taking this initiative, putting this initiative into effect, and hopefully this will turn things around the other way.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you guys joining us today. Always pleasure to finally see you in the studio there.
Absolutely.
Major
Absolutely.
Colonel. Thanks so
Thank
much
you.
for coming in today. Thanks for
sir.
keeping us safe.
Appreciate it.